Have you ever wondered if the fundamental laws that run the universe, the ones that govern a tiny particle, are the exact same laws that shape a human soul? Well, today we're diving into a framework that says, yeah, they are. It's a pretty mind-bending idea that connects modern physics with the spiritual world of the Qur'an. So let's just jump right in. At the very heart of all this is a beautiful phrase from the Qur'an, light upon light. Now, this isn't just poetry. The way this framework sees it, this is a core operating principle of reality. The idea is that every new layer of understanding we get doesn't cancel out the old one. Instead, it illuminates it, showing us that it's all one single, deeply connected system. And that brings us to the big question for today. What if physics and scripture, these two things that seem worlds apart, are actually just describing the exact same universal operating system? What if they're just using two different languages to talk about the same truth? To even start to answer that, we have to get our heads around a core concept, this hidden principle of stability. See, for anything to exist and stick around, an atom, a galaxy, a society, a soul, it needs to be in a constant, dynamic state of balance. And what's so wild is that physics actually has a name for this state of perfect balance. It's called a dual-caustic state. I know, it sounds super technical, but think of it like this. Imagine two powerful, perfectly synchronized waves meeting. Instead of creating chaos, they meet in just the right way to cancel out all the turbulence, leaving behind this incredibly stable, preserved structure. It's perfect stability that's born from two moving forces. And right here, we see the first huge connection. On one side, you have the scientific term, the dual-caustic state, and on the other, you have the Qur'anic concept of Mīzān, which means balance. The scripture literally says that God established this balance in the heavens so that we wouldn't mess it up. So you have two completely different languages, science and scripture, pointing to the exact same foundational principle. Okay, so how does this whole balance thing actually work? Well, this framework suggests that reality operates with a kind of fundamental duality. It's almost like there are two different clocks ticking inside the same system. One reality, but with two distinct and complementary jobs to do. So let's break this down. You've got time A, also called amr. This is the world of direct command, of action, the physical particle. It's all about local, predictable laws. The classic example is Musa, or Moses, who stands for taking direct action based on a divine command. Then you've got time B, or ilm. This is the flip side. It's the world of knowledge, memory, the wave. It's about the big picture, global coherence. And its archetypes are people like Maryam, Mary, and Yahya, John, who represent preserved wisdom and inner purity. Now, here's the crucial part. This isn't just some static setup. This dual system is alive, it's constantly self-correcting. And you know the best way to see it in action? It's to look at what happens when the balance gets broken, when there's a breach in the system. So let's look at a failure in time A. According to this theory, this is what happens when outward authority and action completely disconnect from their source, from that deeper knowledge of time B. It's basically action without any wisdom or remembrance. And the Qur'an gives us the absolute perfect example of this. It's Pharaoh. He declares, I only show you what I see, and I only guide you to the right way. I mean, that's the ultimate expression of time running wild. He's saying his vision is the only one that matters. His authority has completely forgotten its source and become its own God, totally blind to the bigger picture. So, how does the system fix a breach like that? It brings in the other half. It introduces the complementary force, the archetype of Musa, who represents restoring Tamil's true purpose through pure, direct obedience to a divine command. It's a total functional reset. But what happens when the other clock breaks? A breach in time B is seen as even more dangerous. This is when the internal world gets corrupted. Memory, trust, that big picture coherence. It's a betrayal from the inside that threatens to bring the whole system down. And the Quranic example for this is the wives of the prophets Noah and Lot. The verse says, they were under two of our righteous servants, but betrayed them. Think about that. Even though they were connected to a direct source of truth, the time A function of a prophet, they corrupted the inner domain, time B, through betrayal. It shows that outward righteousness just isn't enough if the inside is broken. And the correction for this kind of internal breakdown, it comes from figures who embody the purification of that inner world. People like Āsiyah, Pharaoh's own wife, who kept her inner faith pure under incredible oppression, and Maryam, who restores it through chastity and sacrifice. They are the ones who heal the inner domain. Now, this leads to a really fascinating take on the 1-to-2 inheritance ratio you see in the Qur'an. This framework doesn't see it as being about personal value at all. Instead, it sees it as a kind of spiritual engineering, a built-in redundancy for stability. The idea is that one outward time A function needs the stability of two strong inner time B functions to stay balanced. You need both Āsiyah's sacrifice and Maryam's purity to fully protect that inner world from collapse. Okay, so let's pull the camera way back. The big claim here is that this isn't just about human stories. This same pattern of dual-caustic balance, this whole system of breach and correction, it echoes everywhere, in nature, in the cosmos, at every single scale. Just look at the cycles of respite and return. You have Iblis, who represents the fire of unchecked arrogance. He isn't just destroyed, he's given a pause, a respite. Then you have Yunus, Jonah, who's associated with water and the inner world. He gets thrown into a crisis that forces him to remember and return. It's like systems need these moments of pause, or even crisis, to re-stabilize. And sometimes, collapse is actually a necessary and creative thing. And get this, here is an incredible physical example. The Wallace Line. It's a real invisible line in the ocean in Southeast Asia that separates the ecosystems of Asia and Australia. It's not a wall, just a line. This framework sees it as a physical barzakh, a barrier created by a dual-caustic split in the ocean currents, which created two totally different biological worlds living right next to each other. Amazing. So let's bring all these threads together now. What we've been looking at are all these parallels that point to one single incredibly elegant idea. One universe running on a dual clock system described in two different books. In physics, you can't get a complete picture of reality without both. You need the local, predictable laws of classical physics, and you need the big picture, probabilistic laws of quantum mechanics. You need both clocks. In our human journey, it's the same thing. Outward action, the Musa function, has to be balanced by that pure inner knowledge, the Maryam function. If you have one without the other, the whole system collapses. And the key to staying stable, especially when everything is falling apart, is this principle of trusting a command before you fully understand it. Maryam is told to shake a dead palm tree in her moment of greatest crisis. Yahya is told to hold the book with all his strength. That trust is what holds the system together. And that brings us to this powerful verse. When the Qur'an says Allah does not burden a soul beyond its capacity, this framework sees that as a law of physics. It means no system is ever left stranded with just one clock. Every single time there's a collapse, it is always met by that second, complementary flow, a path to restoration, a path of mercy. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. If this is true, if this principle of dual-caustic balance is real, if every single fall contains the built-in mechanism of its own return, what does that change about how we see failure, about how we see crisis, about how we see collapse itself?